there, so this is Lizzie with the Love From Lizi June 2017 10 cards 1 kit video with the Love From Lizi card kit, and I'm just showing you here exactly what it is that I do with all of the cardstock. In this month's kit there are 5 sheets of cardstock in A4 size, which is obviously what we use here in the UK, and I just split them all in half to make them all nice and even. Now I'm jumping straight into the card here, and some of these cards have got quite intricate techniques, so the video is sped up quite a lot, so I hope you don't mind. But here is something that I can't tell you how excited I am about, but this is the first ever Love From Lizi stamp set, and this is one of the stamps which is sort of like confetti, so you could have it like shot out of a gun, or you could cover a whole background in it. The possibilities are endless, and I think if I had more time, I could comfortably make 10 cards with this one stamp set. Maybe that's a line I'm going to take in the future. But anyway, I went around the edge there with my Versamark ink on one of the craft card bases. And here I'm just neutralising one of the vellum tiles with the anti-static powder from EK Success. And I've selected one of the sentiments from the stamp set, and I've just stamped it 4 times, one on top of each other, using an acrylic block. I could have used a Misty. But I stamped Party Time, and I used the lines on the acrylic on the acrylic block to make sure that I did it all straight. And then I used some Nouveau in sparkling gold over the top, and I just set that, and it has got a really nice little shine to it. And now using some of the border, the little stars borders, I'm just going behind where there's the foiling, just so that the glue is somewhat masked. I mean, if anybody's got a perfect glue with vellum, please comment below and let me know, because to date, I'm afraid I'm still not able to find one that's perfect. Now here, guys, I'm going to be honest, and I made a bit of an error. I've left it in. I was going to make another card and mask it, but I decided to leave all my mistakes in. I assumed because of the denim and the res and the little girl there being a little bit darker, I'd get away with the white foam squares, and I definitely didn't. You can really see them. But listen, this is a handmade card, so, it's not perfect. I did obviously pop a few squares, not rigidly, shall we say, on the other corners, and then I just popped a sequin over the top. And then I did this last month. I went over the whole piece with glossy accents. Now, glossy accents does warp the vellum. It sort of sinks in and changes its integrity. So if you're wanting a perfect flat edge, then don't do that. But anyway, on to card 2. Here I've got this starburst paper. This is by far my favourite of this whole pack. And so I marked on one side where I'd like the edge to be, and rather than cutting a panel and then fussing around trying to make sure that it was perfect when I put it onto the card base, I put glue along the edge that I cut, and then on the opposite edge of the card base, so that there was glue on both sides, and then I laid it down like that, because then this way I can flip it over and trim off the edges, and I've not got a load of waste, and all the edges are nice and straight. I hope that makes sense. I know I have just gone through this very quickly, but as I say, there's a lot for me to get through. So any questions about anything like this, just pop them in the comments below, and I will do my utmost to get back to you. Alternatively, you can have a quick look at the Love From Lizi Facebook group. There are so many kind, supportive people in there. I mean, I do try to stay as active as possible in there to chat with people, and I've made some really lovely crafting friends, I'm very grateful to say. But even when I'm unable to respond to people nice and quickly, there's always someone on hand that's got some tips or tricks or inspiration or advice. It's a really lovely group to be a part of. But anyway, here I'm taking one of the canvas stars that was in the kit, and I'm using the gold rickrack, and all I'm doing is I'm folding it, skipping a spike. So I'm just keep twisting it round and round and round until I've gone round all of the edges, and then I'm using glossy accents, because glossy accents is a really good fixer, but because I'm impatient and I'm doing these cards on the hop, I did put some just normal sellotape over the top just to hold them down until that glue's dried. And here you'll see this is another little trick to hold the foam squares in place. I'm putting glossy accents down and then sticking the foam squares into the glossy accents. Now again, a lot of the problems that I faced with making these cards is I didn't really have the time to let them sit and dry in between layers, if you like. So in the ideal world, once you've done this, you would set your star aside to let the glossy accents dry the foam squares into place. Instead, I had to straight away try and pick the releases off of them, and it was a little bit of a hash. It was fine, it was just a little bit complicated. So if you can let it sit for a couple of hours to let it dry, that is the ideal. And here I'm taking the stamp, which is Happy 4th July, and I'm umming and ahhing as to which kind of ink or embossing powder to use. But this patterned paper is ideal for sentiments in my estimation. I opted for Simon Says Stamp Intense Black. I have got quite a few different black inks now, and different ones work better for different sentiments. Maybe that's strange, maybe that's just me, I'm not sure. But using the lines again on the acrylic block and the lines of my grid mat, I line it up to make sure that it's nice and straight and get my old lawn fawn chamois out to give it a good clean. I'm trying to keep these stamps really nice, what with them being the first Love From Lizi ones. I want to be able to show these to my grandchildren one day and say, look, this was where it all started, guys. So then I use my trimmer just to trim part of that out. And then I cut a small fishtail into the end just by cutting off a bit extra of the excess, cutting a small snip into the centre, and then cutting from the edges into those lines. So very simple, very, very well-known technique. You can, of course, use a punch, or there's lots of different ways you can approach this. But here, now you see the struggle that I'm having. If the glossy accents had have dried, then these foam squares wouldn't have been jumping around all over the show. They would have been behaving very well for me. But I thought, again, I'd leave these sorts of little bits and pieces in so that you don't have to make the same mistakes as me. But yes, so then I've just popped that down. I did also put some glossy accents in the centre of the star behind all of the rickrack just to make it a little firmer. Popped a few foam squares behind the banner and then popped it down towards the bottom. And that's the end of that card. So here's card 3. Now this, I'm not sure if it's my favourite. I think I want it to be. I'm not sure. I really do like this. I'm so happy with how this turned out. So Simon Says Stamp Intense Black Ink. Gosh, can you tell that I was up all night? I had real trouble with my computer. It was dreadful. Got a new computer because I was told it was the best thing to do for photo editing, and I've had nothing but trouble with it. It's been really quite sad. That's why this is a little bit late, and I am sorry about that, guys. I know you all get all excited and look forward to this. But anywho, moving on. I just stamped one of each of the bunting flags onto just some normal post-it notes, and then cut one of each out. Now, these bunting flags are all different. They're not repeats, if you like. It's an organic, hand-drawn version. So, if you wanted this to look absolutely perfect, I would recommend doing post-it masks for the whole banner. But because I was quite happy just to have a little play and see how it would go, I'm just masking off the two that would be impacted by the next layer. So then I've worked my way down the front of the card, and I've picked out 2 sentiments here. And I'm just deciding on how to do this. I just wanted to play, really, and this was a good chance for me to use an ink pad from Simon Says Stamp that I hadn't used until now, and it's Smoke, and it is lovely. And I sort of twisty stamped Let's Celebrate, but I made sure all of these sentiments didn't run off the edge, if that makes sense. So like the complete wording is on the card front there. And then I picked up Party Time, which is a slightly smaller sentiment, and using the same ink, made sure that some of them run off of the side of the card, so that it just makes it look like a bit more of an organic patterned paper when they run off the sides. And here I'm using my new chameleon pen. I'm ever so excited, and do make sure you check out the update video for June, because yeah, my June update, gosh. Now, I have not watched any demonstrations. I did briefly when I was in Frankfurt. I did see someone using them, but I can assure you this was the most straightforward thing to just pick up and use. I am thrilled that these are going to be a staple part of the Love From Lizi kits. They are wonderful. All I was doing for these flags, so just for this size, I was holding it for 4 seconds on the chamber. So I had the bullet nib tip there, and you put it into the chamber and you make sure that the chamber is above the bullet nib so that the fluid can run down. And yeah, and then you just sort of like, it just blends itself. It was so easy to do. And here I'm just using some glossy accents over the other ones, and then I popped some of the Nuvo drops and a few sequins randomly around to finish the card. Okay, card 4. This is a different take on a shaker card. When I first put the little sort of organza bags in, I knew exactly what it was that I wanted for it. So, and you're going to see now. So I like to try to get these cards to be different, because when you're churning out 10 cards each month, I mean, goodness knows how Crazy Paper Chick does it. I mean, she's incredible, all of the card ideas she has. Yeah, I would like to try to do things that are a little bit different, and this was one of the ideas that I had, and I'm quite impressed with it, though, I say so myself. So I've covered the card front there with some of that very subtle starred paper, and then I've got my organza bag, and I've put a few sequins, and then I put a few bows, and then I've just tied the bag up. So it's nice and simple. The thing is, this could also be done with like a gift. Like if you were giving someone like earrings or something for their birthday, you could put them into the little baggie with some little seed beads and bits and pieces. Obviously, don't put the glue there behind the tie, as I just did, because they'll never get them out. But it's a different way to give a gift. I know people like putting gift cards in like interactive bits. I think it was Jennifer Maguire I saw that did some of those, and they look really good. But yeah, I just spotted some glue behind the bag and then put some acrylic blocks on it just to hold it down. And then these little mosaic tiles are fantastic. But do take note, they are designed to all be cut, but they are all as one. So when you sort of peel them back off, the backing doesn't really want to come away too much, because it's trying to hold them all together for you, which is lovely. But me being me, I don't like to use things in the way that they're designed. So I've pulled them all apart to make this border, and then I just stamped using the smoke ink again from Simon Says. Congratulations, and just taming the tails, shall we say there, just so that I know a little bit more about what they're doing. And here again, I'm just using the Nuvo drops that came in the kits, just to randomly splotter about. And now I'm not a random person, and generally speaking, I find that really quite difficult. But different sizes I find helps, and just to keep twisting the card. And these are the bright gold Nuvo drops, and I hadn't warmed them up very well, so they were a little bit peaky. And the tip that I can give you for that is just to flick the back of the card gently, and it sort of lays them down. But there, so that's that card done and dusted for you. Here's card 5. These were these 2 leftover pieces from the 4th of July card that I'd done, and I thought they went so well with the red cardstock that I thought I'd make the most here and use up my scraps, because nobody likes to have any waste. And I'm just using my wet sticky glue, and look, there we go, fail. Massive, massive fail. This would have been the point that I should have thought, you know what, I've got more of this red cardstock, I can do this card again, because it did actually make the card look a little bit rubbish, if I'm honest. But I stuck with it, and we're all human after all, aren't we? And here's, this is error number 2 coming up as well. You're getting them all in this card. I'm really sorry. I will try harder next month to be more perfect, I promise. But I'm using some of the peel-offs there to just run down the edges to tidy them up. Now, this is one of the vellum pieces, and I was thinking about having sort of like a little triad down the middle, but it looked a little bit too busy, and I thought, you know what, this is going to look really nice and simple. So I've got that is just plain old copy paper there, and I cut sort of a little piece, and just enough so that it will stand out, because whilst the vellum is fantastic, it only, in my opinion, really looks super fantastic on mixed media being layered or with white behind it. So you do see me doing this quite a little bit here, where I'm mounting it onto white so that you get the full effect of the colours and the patterns. And then, now that I've stuck that little circle on the back, I'm just popping some little foam squares behind. And also, I mean, this putting the white there, it means you can just treat it like a nice little topper. And now onto the sentiment. Now, Oh yeah, I had to do a little bit of tidying. I didn't cut that particularly straight in the first instance. So all I did was use my craft knife and just sort of jabbed it down until it came away and then removed it. Cut off the tails from my peel-offs. And then, me being me, can't waste a single jot. And these peel-offs are great. They're metallic foil. And you can't actually see it, unfortunately, but at the top there, right at the top of the peel-offs, in the centre, it says Love From Lizi, because they were manufactured for me. They're my design, these are mine. How exciting. Okay, anti-static powder tool at the bottom, mounted up my little stamp and using some Versamark. Have popped the sentiment down, and this is where mistake number one, there was a problem, because I tipped on my lovely Blue Odyssey Nouveau embossing powder and it stuck to all of the glue. And it wasn't that the glue was wet, it was just naff. And mistake number two, I did actually edit out, and that was when I heated up the embossing powder, it melted one of the peel-offs. So I had to replace that one. So these foil peel-offs don't care for heat. Right, so next card. Here I'm just measuring out, as I do with my little pencil, being all old school. I look at something and I prefer to do it by eye than just to try and do everything measured. Does that make sense? If I'm mimicking like a card layout, obviously by measurements is great, but when I'm crafting like this, I just like it to be a little bit more organic and more like I'm playing. So I've stuck that onto the front, and I've got one of the Polaroid frames, and I'm going to make a shaker card with it because, I mean, Polaroid frame, it's just asking to be made into a shaker, isn't it? So stuck some acetate onto the back there. I've got some foam tape that I've just folded in half on the roll, and then I've cut it into 3. Now, I can't stress enough how much I have hated using this foam tape. It's cheap, it's naff, and foam tape can be really expensive, but I absolutely believe it is worth it. If you like making shaker cards, and you want things to be really good and sturdy, and yeah, it's worth the investment. But anyway, I run that all along the edges, and I'm now putting some glue behind the metallic aspect on the vellum of it's the same design. Now this was actually a mistake here, but I'm really pleased with how it turned out. I think in my initial idea, those stars should have been travelling in the same direction as the stars in the background. But I actually think it looks better now with them the wrong way. So, happy mistake. So here I've got my VersaFine, because the Polaroids they're like quite shiny, and I didn't want the ink to just sit on top. So here I've put some sequins on the card front, and then I've used my AK Success powder tool just to take away any sticky from the inside, because I didn't want the sequins to stick there. And I'm taking away the backing, and then quite centrally, like at the top third perhaps, yeah, sticking down my Polaroid frame, and there's the card finished. Okay, and so now we're into card 7. Now this Hessian, it can be a little bit of a pest to work with. That's one of my favourite terms for the little pig when he's playing up. A little bit of a pest. It can be a little bit finicky, but I think that it is definitely worth the final outcome and how it looks. So all I did there was I cut my piece, and then I took away 2 threads from every edge, and now I've got some gold mirror card here, and I again, just by eye, have marked a piece of the mirror that is slightly larger than the burlap or Hessian. Gosh, I need to pick one and just stick to it, don't I? Sorry guys. And then using my scissors, I trim this out. Now, if you're not particularly straight with the scissors, do this and then pop it in your trimmer. But that way, then you still get a lovely big sheet of gold for other projects, and it's not all been chopped up. That's me and my frugal advice. Honestly, if you could see my craft area, the little scraps that I keep, it is insane. Okay, and so I've just stuck down straight onto the card base. Oh, there's my face. Should have edited that out. Stuck that straight onto the card base, And now, using some glossy accents again, I'm going in the corners to make sure that they don't fray any further, and then a little bit over the front. Now here's a tip for you. At this stage, set your card aside for a few hours and let it dry. I did stamp my sentiment in VersaFine, which again is fine. However, in the bid to want to get this video done and dusted so that I could get editing and get it up to you guys, I stuck down my vellum on the burlap, hessian, however you want to call it, too soon. And so what happens is, you will see shortly, I stuck this down, and if it had just been the little spots of glue that I put down, it would have been fine. But unfortunately, the glossy accents from behind, you can only see it on the left hand side, sort of seeped up, and you really can see that, so that's a bit unfortunate. And again, I could have edited it out and made myself look perfect, but then if we always look perfect, then how are we going to learn? So anyway, here's card 8. Now I have got all of these lovely Tim Holtz Distress inks, and I so very rarely use them, and the fireworks were just begging for this. So I picked out 3 of my little mini ink cubes, chipped sapphire, broken china, and tumbled glass, I believe they are. And I just ink blend all of them, and all I did was I started with the lightest, tumbled glass, and I went over the whole panel, and then I came in with the broken china and did about 2/3, and then the chipped sapphire again on top. And I kept going backwards and forwards until I was really happy with the blend. And I didn't want it to be perfect and seamless because it was supposed to be a night sky, or an evening sky at least. So it was nice that it wasn't completely smooth. And then splashed some water on top, and I used my heat gun to sort of set it. And then in a bid to make it look a little bit shiny, you can see it quite well there. In the photos it's ever so difficult to show, but those were sparkle and shine sprays in both gold and silver. So I went right to town. Now here, this is me checking to see whether, oh look, no. So essentially, I tipped that on with no Versamark to see whether or not I would have a mess. And because I hadn't stamped anything, I was able to brush it all off and let it dry a bit more. I used the heat gun on it and just left it to sit. In the meantime, I thought I'd do my sentiment, so I'd stamped and heat embossed Let's Celebrate. And then here I've got a scrap piece of mirror cardboard that I had saved from a previous project. And I cut it to be ever so very slightly larger than the panel that I'd used. And having used the heat tool on there, my patience was wearing very thin now. I wanted to get the card finished, so I dumped about half of my EK Success powder tool on it to check, and bang, there we go, perfect. So now I'm able to start my stamping. And I love this little firework stamp. I'm so pleased with how it's come out. I'm so pleased with this whole stamp set. This whole kit has come out really well. Considering I'm English, and this is a 4th of July kit, I've not been stumped at all. So I just stamped 2 of the full firework, and then I just used sort of like a little scrappy bit of paper. I could have used washi, you could use anything. But I taped with washi it down so that it didn't have that curved edge. And then yeah, as you can see there was a little bit over, so I just used a brush to brush those pieces away. And then I heat set my little fireworks. And then I put double-sided tape all around the edges. Now this is something that I do quite regularly. When I'm mounting something onto a very narrow border that I've cut, because you have to be a bit exact, I like to pull the corners down like that so that there's 2 corners that are sticky. When I'm happy, I push those corners down and then I sort of pull the tails out. Again, this isn't new. I'm not professing to be the idea behind that method, but I find it brilliant. And then some foam tape behind the panel, which you'll be very pleased to hear that I'm nearly finished of. And then I just pop that into the centre of my card base, and look at how shiny that is once I've put my sentiment on there. So I'm very pleased with that one. That might be my other favourite. Could also be the colours though. I like blue. Right, card 9. So I've drawn a line across the front of the craft cardstock, and then I have sort of butted up the largest of the triangle dies onto that. Now using my Teflon bone folder, I give that a really good firm press because it doesn't really like that it's having to fold with only a little bit on. Then I've got a little piece of acetate here left over from before, and I go along with my glue and I sort of run it around. And I did smudge this out with my finger before I put the acetate down, as you can see at the side. And here I've just cut 5 of these little bunting dies, like the mini ones, from one of the patterned paper pieces. And now I could have, really, before I stuck the acetate down, I could have stuck these pieces down. It would have made my life easier, but I don't do things easily. I sort of wing it and go by the seat of my pants. So I blobbed some glue in and I laid them in the sort of the correct space to make sure that they were sort of nicely lined up. And then I just simply closed the card over and held it there for a few moments, and then they were in the right place on the inside of the card. So here we're going to just see that on the inside where the acetate joined the card, I just tidied it up ever so slightly with some of my Love From Lizi peel-offs. I'm not going to get bored of saying that, I don't think. I'm so excited to be manufacturing. This has been a really exciting month for me. And yes, the June update will have all details, and it will have more details of all the other wonderful things that are going to come. But yeah, you have had a little bit of a taster this month of the way the kits are going to be going. Exciting, exciting. So anyway, here I'm just working my way down the zigzags and along the edges here, getting the peel-offs nicely lined up, just to give the front of the card a little bit of shine beyond just the acetate. Then I think straight lines on a card make such a big difference. They just finish things. So now that everything's stuck down nicely, I'm just trimming off all the little extra pieces. And for a sentiment, I just opted with a really nice, straightforward and simple little congratulations. Again, using my nice long acrylic block. I love the longer block for sentiments to make sure things are straight, because there's nothing worse than a wonky sentiment. So there. And that is the 9th card. So here is the final, card 10. So using my glue, run it along behind the foil on the vellum, and then just used a bit of scrap card to spread it out nicely so there wasn't a bulge. And then I've popped this into my MISTI and then laid the tile vellum down. That wasn't stuck at all. I just wanted to sort of get an idea. And this is the little hooray stamp, which I think is so cute. And I just lined it up and then used from, gosh, was it my December kit? I think it was the gold ink, gold pigment ink, which is very lovely and shiny. And then all I did was I got this little hooray and I just moved it along so that it was almost like a border of hoorays above the border of fireworks. And then here I'm just measuring out a piece of gold mirror cardstock. This is why I don't like using a trimmer, because if I'd have trimmed that whole piece off earlier, then I wouldn't have been able to do this piece that I'm doing now. So anyway, moving on, I have got a little piece of white cardstock here because the cloud didn't look very good with the gold behind it because it went sort of yellow. So I've stuck a little piece of white, which is slightly smaller than the vellum. And again, also it gives me the opportunity to be able to 3D mount this up using some foam tape behind. And again, folding the tails as I want this to be perfectly positioned. Then pulling the tails out. And then 3D mounting onto the card front. Taking the release paper off the back and then popping that on top. And that was card 10. So, what is left over from the kit, I hear you ask? There are 2 Polaroid frames, there's still plenty of the mosaic tiles. I didn't actually use any of my sequin string or the jute. There's 1 star, still lots of the Love From Lizi peel-offs. I've still got plenty of sequins, I'd say at least half. Still, I believe, 7 of the bows. We've also got 1, 2, 3, 4 of the large, 2 of the borders, 1, 2, 3, 4 of the minis. There's still plenty of Hessian stroke burlap. there's a few little scrappy pieces, and I do tend to keep these because of the other patterned papers. They can coordinate. So then there's this one that has that small piece removed, but there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 full sheets of 6x6 that I haven't even touched. Then there's obviously the wonderful Love From Lizi stamp set. You've got the dies, which are obviously a keeper, and you've got your chameleon pen. Now, each month I'll be introducing a new colour, so you'll be able to build up your kit and your collection. And there's obviously the Nuvo drops as well, another stash builder. So there is lots of play left in this kit, and I do honestly believe when you have a stamp set of this size, you can comfortably make 10 cards just using the stamps alone without all the little embellishment pieces. So I am looking to try to make more cards, but currently I have all of these lovely mega packs sitting waiting for me to make with. So watch this space, and I promise you're going to get a lot more making videos from me. So additional tools. I did use my Misty, and I used this little trimmer, which I don't know, I think that's got to be about 15 years old, that trimmer, but it's so handy because it's Diddy. I used Simon Says Smoke and Intense Black. I used my gold from the December kit, Versamark, Versafine. I used the Spray and Sparkle in gold and pearl diamond. Glossy accents. I used Distress inks in the 3 colours. Tumbled Glass, Broken China and Chipped Sapphire. I used Nuvo embossing powders in silver, glittering gold, Blue Odyssey. I did bring in an additional bright gold Nuvo drops, Eco Success powder tool, my stamp chamois, my T-square ruler, my ink blending tool. There's also a variety of double-sided tapes and foam tapes, scissors, tweezers, pencil, craft knife, Nuvo glue, stick it glue, my Teflon bone folder, my mono eraser, post-it notes. I did also bring in some gold mirror, silver mirror, a little bit of white cardstock, some watercolour paper to ink blend on, also some acetate, and there was obviously my heat tool there. Okay guys, so thanks ever so much for sticking with me. I have got a load of still shots for you, so you can have a little look at those now. There are some add-ons still available because of high demand yet again this month. I've had to order some more in to make sure that everybody's able to get some that wants some. So they won't get into the kits this month, I'm afraid, but they can absolutely go into next month. And I have also got another video coming later on, very soon for you, because it's Memorial Day weekend. I have a special offer for you, so that will be coming up shortly. I will release that video hopefully tomorrow, which will be Saturday. That's my aim. But here are the still shots, mistakes and all included. I really hope you've enjoyed this video. Thanks ever so much for sticking with me until the end. I will be back with the Memorial Day video for you. These kits are still available. There's only a handful left, I believe. And shipping starts next week. So thanks very much guys. Do take care, and until next time, happy paper crafting. Thanks. Bye.